LD3. Der Deutsche, the Old World Patriot.
Hello everyone and welcome to another video of LD3. Today I want to go through the new FHQ that just came out, show the changes, check what exactly changes and what will be the impact of these changes. And after that, in combination with the new Magic Playbook by Games Workshop, I will check which factions are the winners and the losers of these changes. So let's start directly with the FHQ. If we check general rules and universal special rules, then we see that stupidity allows neither to move, charge, shoot, cast or dispel. Basically, the unit is completely turned off. What is interesting is that stupidity does not allow for this until your next turn to move at all. So rules is written, you are not allowed to do fall back in good order or give ground. Basically, you have a new super unbreakable. I'm pretty sure that this is not the intent of the rule, and I'm pretty sure there will be some community fixes or tournament rules to prevent this. On the other hand, it would enable trolls to be actually a unit that has one specific use case. War machines are confirmed now to pivot once before shooting and being allowed to follow up. Banners affect characters that are joined fully. It is still not 100% clear if this happens before deployment for some rules like Unbreakable, if the character can join, etc, etc. But I think it should be pretty clear that a Vanguard banner on a unit or a special banner on a unit now just regularly affects the character. Leadership tests on own leadership are confirmed to not include the general's leadership. I think this was pretty clear, but people argued about it. One use items are one use only. If you fail the leadership test, the item is still gone. This is relevant for things like the Horn of Isha or some anti-flight tech. The BSB is not allowed to have a higher leadership than the general. This is not possible anymore. This affects high elves and orcs mostly, where you could still take a Black Orc standard bearer and a Goblin Shaman as a general or something like that, or with high elves where a sorcerer or a high sister was a general, but you still took a noble with the elven honor that units could use his leadership. So all this is not possible anymore, and it will hamper orc and high elf character builds a slight bit, but I don't think too much. Yeah, units bleed victory points starting from 25%, not lower than 25%. This is the rulebook now too. And of their starting wounds. This is not true for chariots, which always have unit strength 5, so chariot characters see a slight buff, but monsters and monster characters see a slight nerf here, especially because units give away 50% of their victory points in comparison to earlier 25% if they're on or below 25% of their unit strength. And then, in my opinion, the biggest one on special rules, regeneration works now against lost wounds. Regeneration is somewhat ubiquitous. We see it a lot on undeads, on items and other things. Dangerous terrain tests, crumbling, both count as lost wounds. So after the combat result is in and you crumble, you still get another regeneration roll against those wounds lost. And I think this is a big change that actually buffs undead a lot, especially vampires, which have quite often a 5-up region. Let's go to movement and charges, where we proceed with universal special rule changes. Vanguard does not allow charges in turn 1 anymore. This is a hard blow for the Pegasus Knights, because even if they don't do it or if it is too risky, the psychological factor alone of being able to do this was immense. Quick turn is only possible in remaining moves, neither with reserve move. This is a big nerf for shooting units with open order, nor after give ground. What about lumbering, Games Workshop? Did you forget this? Because rules is written, lumbering is still possible. I hope, or I guess we can settle here that this was just forgotten and will fix lumbering too. This will make for more honest experience when playing with lumbering or open order units, less gotchas, but also you have less interaction with these units, which is quite sad. If an object moves off the table, it's gone now. Games Workshop, what is an object? I guess it's about pillars, it's about cannon shots maybe, it's about stone throwers, but are they completely gone? Like if a cannon shot bounces over the edge? do I still hit the units before that or not? I don't know. Then you can't charge onto a low linear obstacle that is defended. This was an idea that came up, so you could ignore that. Single models charge where the majority of their base lies, not in the verse combat resolution part. And I think this is a complicated one. This will lead to more discussions, where to charge, how it should charge. And you should only go to the verse combat resolution arc if you are not sure about this or if it is discussable. I don't like rules like this, where it is not perfectly clear. So we will see what the community and the tournaments will make out of this. Impetuous is on leadership, but without Warbond bonus. I heard, happy noises from Beastmen, then they became angry noises. I think it's solid. Countercharge is not a charge roll. I became so many questions from you guys if you can still use lances. Yes, you can. It is just not a charge roll. This means you don't get Swift Stride on it. You can use Bretonnian finest war horses, but it is still a charge. No worries here. No fly when pursuing or overrunning. This is big. This is another blow to flying units, and this will allow for redirection troops to be super effective. So if you play good with your redirection troops, with your chaff or with your infantry bricks, and this is a big one, then you will be able to stop flying models. Skirmishers go to a 1-inch spread after melee. Well, what if I don't want this? I mean, normally you still can blaze skirmishers base to base. This rule change implies, in my opinion, that this should not be the case. And this is big because with skirmishers you use so many little things to cheese with them or to use tactics with them, like redirecting, blocking line of sight and similar things. And if all this would not be allowed anymore, this would be really big. But the text that Games Workshop now did alone, just spreading out after melee, does not indicate that you cannot go base to base with skirmishers, so it's a bit awkward here. Skirmishers are also only allowed to charge if at least 50% of the models of the skirmishing unit can see their opponent. We have still no clarification on how skirmishers charge, but we have now this, and this means that in most cases it is super easy to block off skirmishers from charging, because in a unit it's only about the front rank. Only 5 models are relevant for the line of sight, and even then only 1 model that sees someone is enough that the unit can charge. So 1 out of 25 models is enough. And in this case here, 50% have to see, and every model theoretically can see. And I think this is a not that well thought of rule, and it will lead to an awkward gaming experience with skirmishers, but I'm happy to make more experiences with that, and we will see. Yeah, in my opinion, we have a big FHQ, we have a lot of changes, and we don't have clarifications on a lot of skirmisher rules. I think this is a missed opportunity by Games Workshop. I really wish that in the next FHQ there will be more things addressed to skirmishers. Let's go to shooting. While it is an universal special rule, I decided to put it to shooting because it's mostly relevant to shooting. Poison is changed. On a 6 to hit, and now we have to be correct here, one of the model's attacks for each 6 you roll can be modified with a +2 to wound. For shooting, this is pretty simple. You roll your 1 shot. If it is a 6, you make a separate batch and you add +2 for these dices. But when you have units like the Dark Elf Witches, which have multiple attacks and poison, or even without legacy factions, we have the Forsaken, which can have this, how the hell are you supposed to resolve this? Especially if these models are fighting multiple units, or if they are fighting characters in units. So this is obscene. You basically have to roll model for model, and I really have to think about this one. I am very interested in what you come up with, how you read this one. Please check the official Games Workshop FHQ for this, and what the tables will do to solve this, because I think this can take really a lot of time, and it is not a clean solution to this problem. Large targets are shot like from a hill, +1 rank, not every model anymore. Is it combinable with the hill? I guess not, but still it is another nerf for shooting, for poison pricks, and is another buff for large targets and monsters, which we see now quite a lot of buffs. Because this was the major drawback in monsters and which dominated the tournament scene. Characters with a different troop type can be picked out of units, and characters with a different troop type lose Lookout Sir in units. Actually, I played this the way before, but okay. Not the picking, but the Lookout Sir. This means Phalanx is dead. Like, we have the 25% rule of Games Workshop on single units in the match playbook. This means Phalanx can only have 83 skeletons, but they need the skeleton chariots, and Camry infantry will have a hard time without this feature. Fringe case, only pure goblin armies will also have this, but no one played this competitive. Yeah, interesting choice, because it will also deny cavalry mounts in infantry, even if they fit, like the Demi-Griffin mount of a captain in state troops and similar things. I think this is healthy and this is a good, clean rule. Let's go to combat. Not only shooting was hit, Linehammer was hit as well. The fighting rank is only within movement inches without fly. This means dwarves that are not in base contact can strike as long as they are within 3 inches of their opponent. Elves can strike within 5 inches. Some infantry with more movement can even strike in 6 or 7 maybe. Is Linehammer gone? Well, if you fight against a 60mm model with like 30mm infantry, 4 are in contact and most likely 4 more on each side, or 3 more will be able to fight. So we will see infantry units 10 to, let's say, 15 wide at max, which is still quite a lot. It's not Linehammer wide, but it's still different to Warhammer 6th edition wide. But I think it's healthy and it just feels familiar at this point in the old world to have wide units, so I don't think this is that bad. Challenges are ignored in multiple unit fights. This means if a lone character fights against a Linehammer unit and a few inches apart another unit fights the Linehammer unit, then all the attacks can be made against the other unit from the line. So the problem I see here is, do they have to be within movement inches to the brick unit, or is it enough if they are in base contact or within movement inches to the character? The intent should be clear that it is not possible to strike the unit with those models which are within movement inches to the character, but we already saw that the rules for full attacks and base contact just state that you have to be in base contact. You don't have to be in base contact with the unit you strike. This is super ridiculous and needs just some simple fixes. So for the try-hard rules as written players, we have new problems here, but I think common sense should solve this. Supporting attacks are of course only within m inches, even the 2nd rank or the 3rd rank. We will see that soon. Yeah, why you hate Dwarves Games Workshop? It would be very easy to state a fixed number here maybe. Movement inches is more thematic, but it's also more complicated. But people will get used to it when they play their army a few times. No initiative bonus in the next turn. What does this mean? This means that if we overrun into a fresh unit, which is not bound in combat already, the fight will be resolved in the next turn. And then we lose the initiative bonus. So we still count as having charged, we still get to use our lances, but we don't have an initiative bonus because it specifically says the turn you charged. Stomp and impact hits hit with unmodified strength. Okay, impact hits already hit when the combat is chosen. This is good. This is on multiple levels good. Because first, we don't have impact hits in challenges, which felt a bit off. Second, chariots are now able to do combat resolution damage on the unit. Heavy chariots have first charge mostly, so they will be able to remove ranks, and this will be later important. You see it already in red. Most often chariots attack 1 by 1 model on the chariot base, so there is some chance we can do a bit of damage with the crew before our character with a great weapon kills, and hopefully kills with overkill. Lances are now like in config, only versus target stay charged. We also see a lot of weapon changes. Halberds are AP2 in charges, flails have armor bane now, things like that. Frenzy is only +1 attack if charging. Makes sense because we will see these changes to infantry soon, but I think it would be still cool if Frenzy is 1 attack period. Ogre Blade is now worth 75 points. I don't think it matters that much. A few factions which relied on Ogre Blade and Talisman of Protection now already received alternatives via their Arcane Journals, while for Chaos and other factions which have a built-in ward save, looking at Yucatay as well, it doesn't hurt them that much. Britannia too, so it's just a slight point change, and I like that. Terror officially now does not impose the -1 leadership for other units that already cause terror. We config this way, so it's good to have it in the book now. Then the big one, the really big one for combat: no attacks of a mount or rider if the opponent is already slain. This includes for sure storms and is the big monster challenge change we were also greedy for. If you have a dragon and you kill your opponent with your dragon lord, with lord on top of the dragon, you will only get the combat resolution of that lord. For high elves, if you don't kill with the rider and you kill it with the dragon, for example, then the storms will be gone. This means most likely monster riders are not doing the overkill cap for granted, and this will mean you don't need the 7 combat resolution to break or to win combat and hopefully break the dragon. Maybe 6 is enough, maybe 5 is enough. One thing that is missing here is that unit strength 10 is needed for the close order combat bonus, and this is big as well because the Chaos Lord is the only monster right now which has this buff. All the other dragons are 9 wounds, chariots have 5 wounds, so they don't get the close order bonus anymore. We already saw change early on in the edition when it was stated that you need unit strength 5, now you need unit strength 10. And this is another big blow for monsters or for characters on monsters. I think the shooting thing with poison will still strengthen them a bit, but it will be interesting how people balance their army lists around that, and I love that. So, combat for infantry is big. Really big changes which will hopefully improve infantry in combat, especially, sadly a bit, cheap infantry, but there will be more use cases for infantry than before. Heavy and regular infantry receive fighting in 2 ranks if not charging. This means if a frenzy unit charges, they get +1 attack. If they are charged, they still get a strike with 2nd rank, and in consecutive turns they will also get fight in 2 ranks. So frenzy is nerfed, but the other units are buffed. You get +1 combat resolution when fighting a combat with one of these units, so regular or heavy infantry, where your total unit strength is bigger than that of your opponent. This just means that outnumbering is back in addition to the close order bonus. Hand weapon and shield grant +1 armor save to a maximum of 3 up. I would have hoped that spears count for this as well, but you can choose weapons each turn new. This is somewhat important because in a turn in which you charge, you will use hand weapon shield for the better armor save, and later on you can use the thrusting spear if you didn't if you didn't pursue. So this is quite handy. You're very flexible here. You can have a better armor save, or you can use weapon special rules. What was missing before, and sorry that I didn't bring this up beforehand, only infantry and cavalry can get a 2-up armor save. This is another blow to monsters and to monster characters, and in combination with a close order bonus and with this one and all the rules that are here, this just means characters on monsters live now dangerously, and they can be easily fended off by a single brick in a challenge. It looks different if 2 monsters go into infantry, where they will just use their thunderstorms to kill off enough infantry to most likely win the combat. There are some fringe cases where infantry is super sturdy and will most likely win the combat against 2 monsters, and we will show these later. There are more general buffs to infantry, like great swords get strength 4, white lines get furious charge. Honestly, we talked about frenzy. Fury's charge now just works similar. Give this to all elite infantry and leave frenzy alone. This would mean that heavy infantry would be able to charge and hit the same way as they do if they wouldn't charge. Maybe you guys know I love Chaos Warriors. And Chaos Warriors, if they charge, they just have one attack. If you do frenzy on them, they have 2 attacks, that is okay. But if they're getting charged, they still have 2 attacks. So with Mark of Slaanesh and Enchanting Aura, it doesn't matter for them if they charge or if they don't charge. If they have frenzy, which is quite good, but I think it's not good enough. I would really have loved to see more buffs to these super expensive infantry as we see right here now. For the white lines, this is perfect. State troops get Horde. Finally, they get enough combat resolution to fend off big monsters. Hammerers get Crumbler armor. Okay, I think this was not especially needed, since I don't think they will be a very competitive choice now, because they don't have hand weapon shield. Iron Breakers won't be either, because they're already capped at 3 up. So normal Dwarf Warriors, Longbeards and Royal Clan Warriors will see the buffs here, but it is nice to have. Then let's go to Magic. Magic received such big changes that I want to address it separately from the turn sequence. First, level 1s and level 2s get a +1, level 3s and level 4 a +2 to casting and dispel. This means that a lot of spells will be harder to cast, and this means that the disposition between level 1 and level 3 or level 4 is less. The 18 versus 24 inch dispel range is still a thing, but your opponent does not reliably dispel your level 1 or level 2 mage with his level 4 mage. In my opinion, this leads to magic missile level 1 or level 2 casters, especially if they have a reroll built in, or if they have access to a reroll or to +X to cast, can be very strong. Lore Familiar on a level 2 with Power Scroll and some plus to cast by the list can also be a very specific tool that was not really reliable or available prior to this change. I love it. We will also most likely see less magic domination, but we will see stronger bounce spells and stronger missiles. You cannot cast more spells than the level of the wizard, so even if you get a spell familiar, you only can cast 4 spells. A lot of magic items already did that, and I love that. It is now the same for all the magic items that boost your spells, and I think it's just healthy. A miscast of 8 to 9 is only for that single mage and does not affect other mages you control, and I guess this is the confirmation that it also doesn't interfere with bounce spells. I think that's cool, and it brings another step between the 8 to 9 and the 10 up for the miscast. A lot of spells received -1 to cast, not -2, but -1. So they will still be harder to cast than before, like Steed of Shadows, Arcane Urgency, a lot of utility spells. But at the same time, they are more easily cast for level 1 mages and the same difficulty than for level 2 mages. So the basic task for you is now to tailor your magic to your casters, use Lore Familiar, use the right signature spells, choose your magic carefully if you won't fall back just to magic missiles or if you're not able to, and use the correct build in your army list to support your magic. Dispelling in combat is allowed as long as spell hits the wizard's unit. This makes combat wizards more competitive. This makes wizards in knights better. You can even have a cheap level 1 knight with the Infernal Puppet, for example. So this is pretty good. Vortexes are completely changed. Pillar of Fire now does randomly scatter. It would be a huge impact, but the bigger impact is that vortexes only hit 1 unit each turn. You have to move it then in a way, if it would hit 2 units, that it just hits 1 unit, if I understand the FHQ correctly. This is a big downside to vortexes and will most likely reduce the damage by a lot. But, and here comes the game changer, vortexes deal also damage even if a unit moves through a vortex. So if you spam a lot of vortexes, you will not only make your opponent's units slower, impose dangerous terrain tests, but they will get a lot of damage. Most vortexes are changed, by the way, to just difficult terrain, If you of course use things like German comp, where all difficult terrain is dangerous to non-infantry, then this will cause a lot of havoc. But vortexes are dispelled from the spell, not the wizard. This is for all remains in place spells, and I think it is a rule that was wished upon by a lot of players in the community. Other spell changes are TMP is now volley within. A lot of tournaments already did that, and I think TMP was only problematic with poison shooting because it was very oppressive. For the evasion archetype, I still feel it is needed. It is too much in terms of the new missions, where you have to have board control, but you could still just rule this that if you move by TMP or similar spells, you cannot hold. But it is like it is. I like the spell. I'm a Beastman player, you guess it. I maybe abused it a bit too much. So I guess I am fine with that. Now I have to fly with a Steed of Shadows, with a level 2, with a Law Familiar, use the reserve move on the bounce spell, and yeah, then still don't have any poison shooting, whatever. Arcane Urgency is confirmed to work on random movers, but now you cannot get any charges off with that, so you cannot move into contact. Ruby Ring is changed to 35 points with a level 1 cast. I think it's still good. This was an item that was basically a given. You had to take it in every list, especially if we see no board control questions popping up, if we see maybe more war machines with more war machine hunters. So this item is so good. This is a nerf which is needed. Earthen Ramparts is now a real low linear obstacle and blocks out stomp attacks and blocks out impact hits. Also blocks out receiving more than one attack per model. An infantry unit which has Earthen Ramparts on it is now basically unchargeable. Super strong. I like that a lot. The casting value is still super high and most of the time I don't get it off, but I really think maybe to build wizards in a way that they can get this spell reliably off, because this is now a good old enhancement spell as we know it from previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy, which will change the course of games without being tied to mobility. And this is a big thing, because either spells right now were tied to mobility or damage, like TMP, Arcane Urgency or Wildhide, and the only spell with a similar impact, in my opinion, was the ethereal spell of the High Magic, which was embedded in a bad magic lore and resulted therefore in more fringe use cases. I personally think that High Magic received a big buff because the Train Magic spell impacts now a lot more. Okay, these were the changes to Magic, and now let's check the changes to the Ravening Hordes and then to Forces of Fantasy. Let's go through the Ravening Hordes now. Camry, the Mortuary Cult, can only eat once per turn per caster, for a +1 just. This means you have to choose for which spell you eat, and it's not limited by your swarms, but in this case by your casters, and you only get to cast for +2 or +3, and with a casket for a +4. The casket casts now at +2, so it is in line with other changes. Chariots in core are -2 points, okay, and we have a -Stone Shaper nerf, but nothing else changes. I think the big changes here are the things we talked about before, like poison, TMP, and fly. Orcs, and this is a fix we should have thought of earlier during the WTC, or I am impressed by Games Workshop. They just state you're not allowed to release fanatics in marching column. I think we were not bold enough to invent something like that, but it helps for sure. Honestly, 50% in combination with the pillar being gone of all these random marching column shenanigans are done now. The only thing that remains is the icon of Rakab, but I think this will see a fix in the next future FHQs by Games Workshop. But it is very clear, or because it is very clear, they do not want to see cheese like that. Trolls get motley crew, like whatever, but if you can abuse trolls for stupidity, it would be a lot of fun to see them in this new role. You don't get block chariots in a Grand Army or a Troll Army, and you have some other minor changes for Armies of Infamy, but I don't think this will change much. Beastman, the Wild Herd only missed cards on a double one. If they use the feature of the Wild Herd, the Shagger is hit for sure. He cannot get a 2-up armor save anymore. It was short while it lasted. Sadly, I did not field him a single time. And the Falcon Horn banner is already nerfed and one use only. I love it that these anti-fly devices are one use only because they felt super oppressive. At the same time, I think the 5-man Bastigor herd is out. Chaos. Infernal Puppet works only 15 inches, but also for bounce spells. I think this is a nerf. Demonic Mount is allowed for aspiring champions, enchanting aura and diabolic splendor only for cavalry or infantry. Okay, this is in line with the regen on the dragon being blocked through 500 points. Dragon ogres are plus 3 points, makes sense. Chaos dragons are allowed for exalted champions. Like, what the fuck? I mean, okay, they only have toughness 5, but you now get 2 adult Chaos dragons with 6 attacks, strength 7 and everything in your characters. Whew, strong. And remember the casting differences and the dispel differences to the last edition. Warpfire dragons with level 1 are now excellent dispel casters. This sounds big to me. Chaos dragons receive impetuous but on leadership, and I think if you do the lawnmower tactics where you just fly forward with 3 dragons, this is still super solid. Let's go over to the forces of fantasy. Dwarves. The anvil still gets plus 3 to cast this spell. Some of the complexities are changed and reduced. This means the anvil is the best caster in the game without additional special rules like plus 2 to cast and similar things. We get armor runes only for the crew of the anvil. This means we don't have a toughness 10 anvil both in combat and range now. The Drollhammer torpedo is strength 5 just and gets cumbersome instead of dwarf crafted. This means you don't get the stand and shoot and you only have strength 5. I think this is a super important nerf which will cause a lot less of the iron tricks. Empire. General has leadership 10. Remember the Horde and the Great Swords changes. The captain has leadership 9 and the Griffin banner is confirmed to be able to exceed the static combat res given in the book. This means right now with Horde we get a static combat res with the Griffin banner for plus 6 alone. If you add in all the other rules, like you get outnumbering, you maybe have a BSB in that, you have a banner, you have a war banner, you have plus 6 of this, I think it's possible to go easily to plus 10 or maybe even plus 13 with a flank charge or similar things of static combat resolution. Combined with outnumbering, as long as 21 models after the champion got eaten by the dragon are in this unit, you break a Chaos Dragon for sure. This is so big. The question is, why should he charge the block? He's impetus now. If your opponent uses Blood of Caldor, High Elf Dragons are impetus too. Yes, it is on leadership. And guys, Stormy Daybill already played before a Necromancy wizard on Empire. I think this is big, and this is just a big tool for Empire to now finally get a tool against the tooled up dragons. High Elves are affected by a ton of changes. The most important rules change per se is that the Ring of Fury is only level 1. For the rest we will have to see what the meta does. I think Falconhorn being restricted to 1 use only and casting complexity is reduced is the biggest thing for High Elves, and it's just a bonus. Because they have their good special rule where they can reroll 1 casting attempt per turn, so they don't need another source of plus to cast. A lot of factions will have less tools available. High magic, drain magic is stronger. You can more easily protect your dragon. So I think High Elves could just become stronger. I am not so sure because they lack some tools against infantry bricks, to be honest. Maybe they have to use an infantry brick themselves, or they use Stormweavers or similar sources. Sisters, maybe bolt throwers, maybe some chariots to get rid of these infantry bricks, and they have a lot of tools to do this. So I think High Elves are quite a winner. Wood Elves, the Exile Forest is fixed, no cheese anymore because it has to be at least 3 inches wide. And woohoo, Games Workshop takes another German comp rule. We have a signature spell of the lore available for the Sisters. It's not that big. I mean, they can fall back on Hammerhand, and this is quite good. So they can just roll for the Fireball or the Pillar, but the Pillar is not that strong anymore. Bretonnia, Pegasi plus 4 points, and they're not allowed to take Lance Formation anymore. I think this is not that big, but it is a nerf. Lance Formation was used to snipe out characters out of Death Stars, and this is not possible anymore with the unit with the highest strength and where the Duke went in. This is a super big nerf. Roll Pegasus plus 10. Duke is now 470 points big. This means he will be comped out in German comp with the Ogre Blade and the Temper. So you see the 400 points rule is still, in my opinion, super good and became just better. Because the Exalted Champions of Chaos are also 414 points without magic items, so they cannot take regeneration or anything. The widest rank of the lance blocks charges, okay. The Falcon Horn is 1 use only, ouch. I already spoiled that with the High Elves, and this is a really big blow to Bretonnia, because now they are not alone with their fly mobility in most of the matches. They cannot dominate single factions that rely on flying like High Elves as they wish. I just had 2 games against High Elves with Bretonnia, and it's Warhammer on easy mode, really. Bowmen don't have a real low linear obstacle, but Earthen Ramparts has. Come on, Games Workshop, just give it to them. And I think this in combination is enough to make the Bretonnian dominance in some tables cease. Another super important thing lies hidden in details. The lance formation grants base-to-base contact with every fighting rank, and well, infantry units have 2 fighting ranks now, so against Bretonnian lances, infantry can attack with all attacks in 2 ranks against the Bretonnian lance. This means if you charge a Bretonnian lance into a unit of infantry with multiple attacks, they are most likely just dead. And this means you will see more knights in close order. You cannot see the Pegasi and lance formation anymore. Bretonnia is the faction which will see the biggest changes from this FHQ. So, who are the winners of the FHQ and all these changes? Personally, I think vampires are big winners. The Graveguard is already strong with the match playbook, so I will take both the match playbook and the FHQ into account for this winner or loser analysis. The Graveguard can now attack in 2 ranks, most often doesn't charge anyway, or can block very fast, very good with some of the marching column Gs. They still can do with the wheels. They have reserve move most likely, they get a lot of plus movement buffs. That's pretty good. Their ability to reach weapon skill 7 or similar things is still untouched. Most of the casting is leadership, the healing is leadership, so it's not nerfed by magic. They still have the Mortis engine, which has also a passive, don't forget that. They regenerate even after crumpling, and with the Drakenhof banner they have a 5-up save against crumpling wounds. This is just big. Against a unit of 36 Graveguard, which is exactly 500 points, you will have a really hard time. Also, cannons will tend to bleed damage more instead of doing big blows or getting saved for regeneration. While this is personally, I think, a good thing, because most cannon shots will not go fully wasted. Against undead, it's worse, because they can heal these cannon shots better than the big blows, because they only heal 1 wound on big monsters. So vampires did not receive many nerfs. Their bounce spells, signature spells have the same problem as every legacy faction, that their casting value wasn't changed. But still at the same time they benefit very much of the changes. So I see vampires as a clear winner. Beastmen, they have lots of infantry units that will now fend off dragons or will be able to fight really good, like Gauls. Gauls of Primal Herd are now able to defeat other infantry bricks still, because they are just very capable of defeating infantry, and they will now fend off dragons, and this is a thing Beastmen lacked before, so their infantry just super duper improved. We most likely will not see the very big poison Death Stars anymore. This is a nerf, but at the same time, when it comes to the mission play that will be introduced with the match play pack, you want to be more aggressive and less evading with your infantry. And I think Primal Herd or Gore blocks with cheap Wargors in there will just provide exactly that. They will kill a lot of infantry. Wargors with a great weapon, add a lot of striking power for like 50 points. They can be sacrificed against the dragon even if the champion is dead, and you will most likely still win that combat, so that is super big. Wild Herd and Herdstone provide a reliable magic with +2 to cast. This is mortuary cult level of casting now, and flyers are not able to use fly during overrun will make MSU great again. In the very start of the edition, I played Beastman a lot with MSU, lots of Angor units, a lot of Harpy units, where I built multiple layers of defenses and then a shaman on a chariot and similar things. And I just think I will partly go back to this and maybe add 2 infantry bricks instead of the spawns in the Wild Herd, or just with the spawns in the Grand Army. And I already wrote a bit with Winslow, and you can basically play now very soft lists of Beastmen. I had a list with a Primal Herd, with a big brick of Primal Warhounds with a Warhoof in there, crazy shit, like 20 with a full horde bonus, and a proper gore block. And I still thought that that list is competitive or viable. Empire. Cannons see a slight buff in my opinion, because the Chaos Dragon doesn't have regen anymore. The High of Dragons don't have an additional special rule or an additional Opal Amulet. They will be good against deep bricks. You can still cause a lot of damage into deep bricks with cannons. So they're more flexible to use in this meta now, which will maybe most likely come up. So I see cannons and dragons dominating together with infantry bricks, the new meta, and I think it's iconic and it's more fun than cavalry or Death Stars or similar. Cheap infantry brick with up to combat resolution 13 is just crazy. Sacrificial characters benefit heavily now from the new rules of challenges, and you can just put Witch Hunters into infantry blocks, which provide magic resistance 2, which provide a sacrificial character, which have 3 attacks with killing blow, and in my opinion this is super good. Knights and cheap bricks are good for grabbing objectives, which we will see a lot with the new mission pack, so that's super good too. Another thing that came to my mind is abusing the rules for more characters in units than models in the fighting rank. So you have to retire when there are too many, but if you join with that many characters from the very beginning, more characters are in the second rank, I think they do not fall flat. They can still use their special rules, they can still use 1 or 2 attacks, and you can rotate the characters in or out to the fighting rank. Or it is the fighting rank if they get charged. So you can have characters in the second rank, and this could make some fun interactions with Sigmar Priests, with Hammerhand casters and similar. You could theoretically build a crazy Empire Death Star with lots of characters in a small unit, like 6x6 with 5 or 6 characters in there. And yeah, I have to check what the rules interactions are here, but I think it is abusing the rules a bit, but at the same time it's super unique and maybe fun. Let's test it, let's see. And we have more winners, more winning factions. We have the Warriors of Chaos, which can do now a triple dragon and a Warpfire dragon, which is a proper dispel wizard right now. Knights and such and Marauder Horsemen are good for missions. You could even just play 10 or 12 Chaos Warhounds to grab mission objectives. So that is super good. You have all the tools you need in core. Multiple monsters will still smash infantry bricks. One monster alone will get fanned off, but 3 dragons are still a force. And the poison nerf here multiplies heavily against chaos, because one of the biggest threats for chaos were the poison shots, since you were not able to get a 2-up armor save on your Chaos Dragon. Another winner are the dwarves. We heard a lot of the positive changes for dwarves. We heard a lot of positive changes for defensive infantry. And I think personally that war machines will be super important in the future. Also the miners could do some tricks and some good mission plays. So I think good times ahead for dwarves in whatever configuration they play. Even for the gyrocopter spam, it is super cool, because the Falcon Horn is 1 use only, so you can actually evade the Bretons. Not so cool is the scoring with unit strength 10 or more, so your scout gyrocopters will not score. Tanky characters are good for challenges. I think dwarves don't want to die in challenges. and don't want to give up a combat resolution, but still, overall, it's super good. High Elves. Yeah, we already talked about the High Elves. They have still a reliable casting. They have 1 reroll per turn. The dragon is almost uncomped in its strength. There are less threats of shooting, of poison shooting, which is super dangerous for High Elves. Personally, I have to say, with Beastmen, I just lasered all the High Elves I met. I think I have 9 games. I have 10 games against High Elves with Bretons and Beastmen, and I won all 10 of them because they just die against everything. Now this is reduced. You have the train magic, you have the poison not being as dominating as before, and super important, you have an unbreakable dragon with the courage of an Arion, which we already saw in action during the WTC, which ate through a 12 Death Star and will now eat through any infantry unit available. All these combat resolution tricks will not help you if the dragon just grinds through your characters, your champion and your unit. You have a lot of cavalry for board control, and you have solid anti-infantry shooting, so High Elves are quite a winner of these changes. And where there are winners, there have to be losers, and I think Bretonnia is one of the biggest losers. We already talked through it. Lance formation will get killed by 2 ranks of infantry. They had a slight point adjustment. The Falcon Horn is basically gone, or only once per turn, which is still once per game, which is still good to get your important turn in, or to protect you in the very important turn. The poison nerf doesn't mean anything against Bretonnia, but the big problem is that all the new strategies that will come up against flyers, against monsters, will also hurt Bretonnia, while Bretonnia evaded poison. So this is a indirect nerf or an indirect problem for Bretonnia, which is not exactly clear yet to which extent they will suffer from this, but I'm pretty sure they will suffer from this. And you don't have the fly overrun anymore, which means you will have a hard time to bring your Pegasus into safety, or your opponent can just put a big brick behind the unit he offers to the Pegasus, or where the Pegasus are fighting. So yeah, this will be hard for them as well. Khemri gets big nerfs. The Phalanx is gone. It's a victim of the 500 points rule and of the chariot changes. Mortuary Cult is less oppressive in casting. Poison and TMP are gone or weakened. You don't have to fly overrun in the monster mesh list, and necromancy vortexes are not stacking anymore. So basically every single build Khemri had was nerfed. They still have the better regeneration against crumpling and so, but most of their units only have regen of 6 up. I think some of the constructs have a 5 up and the characters have a 5 up, so most likely the monster mesh list will be the best thing they have. The poison nerf is then not doing them so much harm, but the sturdy infantry bricks are bad for them and will most likely start to crumble them down. They still can try the same as Chaos did, with just showing a massive show of force and going in with multiple fly monsters, but your opponent also plays against you. Wood Elves, at this point we are beating a dead horse here. A lot of things are gone. Magic casting is worse now. They have less magic tricks than other factions have. Yeah, I could now just copy a lot of messages from Denarius, which is very expert in Wood Elves, and I think we are beating a dead horse here. Yeah, there are a lot of more factions. What about them? Orcs, to me, they seem to be stronger now. It is still a bit unknown for me. They can spam missiles with orcs, with the mob rule, special rule, but they have a lot less spells with the changes and the Games Workshop comp. Infantry will be better for them. We'll have a lot of map control. You can spam tons of goblins and of night goblins. Sacrificial night goblins in units will be big against monsters and will provide some protection here. Yeah, at the same time, War Boss on a Wyvern is way worse. He doesn't have the 2-up anymore, which was super important for him. You don't have the Fanatics in Marching Column, which was quite an important combat trick. But you can spam the table for objectives. We will see where the orcs rank in, because I think a lot of stuff that will be adapted will also hurt the orcs, but I'm not sure where to rank them in now. Katai already is a bit nerfed by the fly nerf. They still have cannons, which are super good, which disable swift stride, so this is huge. Their mages already have a reroll or some buff once per turn, I think, but they don't have many units for board control, so we will have to wait where Katai ranks in. And I think all these people, including me, who say, oh my god, they have crazy abilities, they have crazy characters, these lanterns are something else. Let's wait what comp the people come up with. Maybe we see the character mount comps, you only have 3 lanterns in total, and maybe they just don't have enough units. The legacy factions, this is super wild. I already said this. For the vampires, most lores have to be fixed. The signature spells are now very different. Lizardmen have absurdly good casting with their bounce spells, with their monsters, but poison is gone downhill for them. Skinks have now a 4-up armor save, so there's super wild changes here. Saurus warriors having a 3-up armor save is big as well. Maybe this helps Lizardman a lot. I can see Skaven ambushing all over the place, spamming cheap magic missiles, so maybe it's a buff to them. Maybe the changes to casting are too hard on Skaven or Dark Elves, which only have Hecate's Blessing once per game, which do not have cheap infantry bricks, so this could be a big disadvantage for the Dark Elves. We will just see. But what we can say now for sure is that some units are completely off now regarding the rules text. Even Games Workshop forgot to fix the spider banner, which is just a thing that is used in almost every list. They forgot to fix it. So because it says if you already have poison, you will trigger it on a 5 to hit. So that's super weird. And I did not check all the Renegade books or all the Legacy books, but there will be tons of changes that need to be done. So the big question is, will the community accept more community fixes, which are needed, like Renegade Pack, like the ones in German Comp? And I'd say we should so even on high competitive events, because on the lower competitive events, at least, which I see both locally in Berlin, in Saarbrücken, Mannheim, everywhere there is a discussion about Renegade being accepted or already being accepted, or playing like German Comp and German Comp being accepted. And even the online tournaments, of course, SBOT accepts Renegade, of course, German Comp accepts German Comp changes. So we should be more open here, maybe work together, so we have common fixes for the legacy factions, and maybe we can do this in the comp fac as well. Yeah, and I think that's it. This was my big LD3 analysis on the changes of the FHQ and some impact of the matched playbook. I hope you got some information out of this. I hope it wasn't too much information shot in your general direction, and I hope you enjoyed the video and had some fun with it. And if you have questions, feel free to contact me. Join the next tournament. We will start a LD3 matched play pack tournament where we'll just play with the Games Workshop pack starting on July 21st. I asked first if we want to do it earlier, but most of the people said no, mid-July sounds about right. Maybe SBOT is getting a restart right now. They are discussing this. So we will see a lot of tournaments with the new pack and the new FHQ in the near future. Hop on the Discord, get access to the LD3 match play tournament for free, and let's discuss on a high competitive level about these changes and the consequences. This was Untitled for today. I hope to see you at the next video. Until then, bye bye and thank you for watching.
LD3. Der Deutsche, the Old World Patriot.